Okay, great. All right, so I want to get started first with a quick little story. And Liam kind of talked about this story a little bit already. And the story is really about this presentation. How did I come to mind mapping for better decision making? Right? How did that come about? So as Liam pointed out, I was in London. We had opportunity to meet. We had known each other for years, but this is the first time where we had an opportunity to meet face to face. This is fantastic. We had a very engaging conversation. As you can see, I challenged him on some things, and as a result, he came back and provided something for us. So that's fantastic. Really good detail in. And another thing that came out of that conversation, though, is that as I was talking about that book he was mentioning, I pulled out my iPad, and I was using iDots HD, and I had that book all mind mapped, right? So I had the notes and so forth, and I was integrating that into our conversation. And so an interesting thing happened for me as I was having that conversation. I said, Liam, you know what? You know what the real power of mind mapping is? I think the real power of mind mapping is it allows you to create these dynamic, interesting maps that enable you to create these associations that are just profound in a way that enables us to make really powerful decisions about how we actually go about making decisions. And so as I was looking at that, I said, what are some mind maps that I could offer today that kind of takes us down that road and helps us to kind of understand how can we use mind mapping to make more effective decisions? So I want to talk about this in two contexts. The first context is what I call one-dimensional mind maps. And the second context is multi-dimensional mind maps. All right. So on the one-dimensional mind map front, I put up this mind map called the Time Management Matrix up on Biggerplate. I have about 61 mind maps on Biggerplate. All those mind maps have been downloaded in the hundreds, but this mind map was downloaded in the thousands. And so that was very curious to me. Why would that happen? Why would that download in thousands? I think one of the reasons why is because it's dealing with time. And as you all might understand, time is a great equalizer, right? Because no matter if you are black, white, rich, poor, male, female, right? We all have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day, and if you sleep 8, you got 16, right? So, what are you doing with your 16 hours? What kind of decisions are you making with the 16 hours that you have, right? So this mind map explores that and provides a degree of awareness for us around that and helping us to make decisions. So let's take a look at it. I'm going to need to make this a little smaller on the screen. All right. So I'm going to quickly take you through this mind map and just get you oriented for those of you who have not seen this. This is actually based off the work of Stephen Covey, the Time Management Matrix, and so I've taken that concept and I've put it into a map, right? So in this first quadrant here, we have the quadrant of quality personal leadership. Now these are the things that are about planning, preparation, exercise, right? So this is the place where we want to be, right? We stay here long, we're going to achieve our goals faster, more effectively. The challenge, however, with this particular location is that though it's important, it's not urgent. So what does that mean? We can put it off until the next day, and the next day, and the next, right? So that becomes a challenge. We need to be there, but it's hard to stay there and to be disciplined about it. This next quadrant is the quadrant of waste. Now the quadrant of waste, these are things that are not important and not urgent, right? So here, this would be the escape activities. Let's say reality TV, for those of you who may or may not like reality TV, right? But this is basically, you know how it goes. You watch the show, and as you're watching the show, they tell you about the show that's going to come on, and you watch that show, and you look up, and 4 hours is gone. You're like, what happened to my time, right? So that's phase. Then we have the quadrant of deception. Now, the quadrant of deception, this is an interesting place because these are things that are not important but urgent. You might be asking yourself, how could that be? How could it be, right? Well, these are things that are usually urgent for other people, right? Right? So these are the things that people are bringing. Hey, can you take a look at this? Hey, can I get you for a moment? Can you look at this? Right? So these are basic things other people are putting onto you in some way. And so you got to be careful here because they may appear important, but in relation to your goals, they often are not. So that's called the quadrant of deception. And then this last quadrant is the quadrant of necessity. So these are things that are both important and urgent. Now, even the most well-planned life, right, has crisis from time to time, right? You have things in which you have to deal with that require your full and undivided attention. It doesn't always have to be an emergency, though. It could be a deadline-driven project where, again, you just got to be focused for a specific period of time. right? Now, there's also a relationship between quadrant 2 and quadrant 1, right? So the more you're able to spend time here, it obviously prepares you to deal with the challenges that happen here. Okay. So there's a relationship that exists between the two. So I wanted to walk you through this mind map, and this is what I call one-dimensional mind mapping. Now, why do I call it that? I call it that because, to a large degree, I've taken that matrix, something that I could draw. I could turn this off, I could give you all a blank sheet of paper, give you markers, and you can pretty much replicate this, right? The other thing here is I made these colors, and I made that for a specific reason too. So if you notice I have this in the black. I made it black because I think of it as staying in the black, right? Kind of a financial solvency thing, right? So you want to try to stay there. I made these white because I think of them as a white noise, right? So you want to stay above the white noise, right? And then I made that red because, again, it's urgent, requires your focus, etc. But at the same time, you want to be careful. Don't spend too much time there because that's where burnout happens, right? So again, I could give you paper. You could replicate that. And so from my perspective, that's one-dimensional mind mapping. Not to say one-dimensional is less important than multidimensional. For this purpose, I think this is great. If in terms of managing your time, in terms of understanding how to more effectively spend your time, this suits the purpose just wonderfully. But we can extend mind mapping today because of the software. So let me talk a little bit now about what I call multidimensional mind mapping. That extends this. So there's two mind maps I want to show you. One I call the master map, and the other one I call the budget map. So, the master map. So when I go to work every day, this is what I see. This is what I start my day with every day. Within this map, basically when I come into work, I change this date, right? So the date I'm on, right? Today in this case, right? You click on this and it opens up and you kind of can navigate through my projects, etc. Those are some key projects I'm working on right now, right? And then within the T&LD and other departments, that's information about all the departments in the company and personal, a lot of information as well. Now I'm not going to go through this whole map, but what I am going to do is highlight what I call key functionality. Key functionality that, from my perspective, allows us to do multidimensional mining. So I can still take the same construct that I had in that time management matrix, that's quite useful, but now I can extend it. So I can extend it in these ways. So one, I can link to folders. Right? Now typically I wouldn't link to maybe all these folders. I might link to one or two or three, right? But I can link to folders, so no more going to Windows Explorer trying to find, my documents that way. Or I can link to specific documents. Hopefully all of you know what that document is.
That's a good plug.
I could also link to websites. Click real quick. This is Google, but it can be any website, right? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Google. You see the little man they got going on? I don't know if that's about.
First day of spring.
Oh, first day of spring? That's what it is? Oh, okay, great. All right, so, and then I could also have notes. And again, for those of you who are familiar with mine, you have this. There's another piece of functionality I think is really key, because my map, that map I showed you, you're at the high level. It goes deep. It has a lot of components to it, right? But what if you need to make a decision? Somebody calls you about something, you need some specific information right now. How are you going to get to it? Well, in our company, one of the things that we have to do if you have a technology problem, we have to open a ticket, as it's called, right? So that's a specific website within my map. I'm just going to show you this. So I would go IT ticket, right? And boom, it takes me right to that location. I click that, I put in that, I'm done. So making decisions is often about having the right information at the right times, right? So that's what this kind of functionality enables. Then, over here. And then one other piece of functionality I think is really key is linking to other maps. And so this takes me, and I know my time's coming up here, and this links to the budget map. Now, in my job, one of the things that I have to do is manage our global budget. And so we have a budget And also, let me say before I show you this, all the numbers are fictitious. This is a very public presentation, so I made up all these numbers here. But the structure and how this works is exactly how we use it. All right? So I'm just going to give you kind of an idea of kind of what this looks like. So this is operating across all budgets, right? And then if I drill into this, you can see all the budget lines, right? And then as I go into this, and actually I'm going to take it out of this because I'm going to highlight something specifically. Then you can see a particular program, and I navigated to this for a reason. Because I want to show you this other functionality, which is called tagging and filtering. So in this example, let's say the example that we had, which is the typical thing that we have, is what's the spin? In this case, around leadership development programs. So what's the spin of that program to the other budget items in that category? And so what I can do once I tagged it, I tagged the leadership program. It can be tagged anything that you want, right? Great. See my time there. And it can be tagged anything you want. So what I did is I went through, and for each of these lines, right? So I'm going to close this again. So for all three regions, I went and tagged the leadership program. And so by tagging it, I can then go to view, I can go to show, and then I create the filter, leadership program, and then as you see, we took the map and filtered it down, and as you see, across the regions, right? And so now it's only the leadership programs, and it's showing what that spend is to the total program budget. And this is dynamic, so I can go in and I can change any of this, I can change these numbers, and it would continue to reflect. So this is a great tool that we use to kind of calibrate, find out where we are in the different regions, etc. But my entire budget is there, but just by doing that particular filter, it has zeros on that program. And so I can zero in, again, on whatever I want. So this is another powerful feature in what I call multi-dimensional mind mapping, where I still have that construct of central topic, main topic, subtopics. I still have that construct, but now I'm answering different kinds of questions and making different kinds of decisions with the map. So, and I believe I have 3 minutes. So that's the budget map. So, to wrap up, sorry about that. So, to wrap up, mind mapping software is a powerful decision-making tool. Whether you use one-dimensional or multi-dimensional depends on the purpose and context. I hope that comes clear because, again, my intent is not to suggest in any way that one is better than the other. I think it's a matter of what is the question that you're trying to answer. What's the decision you're trying to make? And as I'm saying here, is that it's not an either-or proposition, it's a both-and proposition. And then the key is that it can do both. And because it can do both, it provides a format and a degree of flexibility that, to Liam's point early on, that I believe is truly the missing link. And I think as more people begin to understand that, I think traction with mind mapping will go to another level. I'm done, and I have 2 minutes left, so questions.
Thank you, Johnson.